All right, welcome to Talking Investing. Friday, markets closed. We should be live. George is supposed to be here, so I expect him any second to be joining us. Well, more like any minute, I would say. It's more realistic. In the meantime, welcome everybody. Hey, Alex. Hey, Colton. Hey, Darren. Hey, Martin. Hopefully you guys had a decent day. We were green. I know it's a shocker. I felt for sure mid-morning it looked like it was shaping up to be just another Friday. Oh, hold on. I got George coming in. George, can you hear me? Oh. Would help if I put my earpiece in. George, testing. Hey, hey. Welcome. Welcome to the live stream. We are live. Give or take, you know, a million. That was Chance, everybody. There might be. I mean, there is, or maybe he didn't actually see it. Can anybody else? Alex says he can't hear George. Can everybody else hear George? Let us know if George is... Here, George cannot. No audio from George. What? What? Hey, Seth. Why do you have no audio? I hear you just fine, and listen, I pressed the button, man. There's a button. I pressed it. Everybody should be hearing you. Hold on. Can you hear me now? I mean, can they hear you now? Oh, were you muted? Yeah, no, exactly. I thought I pulled the old... All right, let's see. I'm going to see if my tech is in the house. I'm going to be gone for 20 seconds. Everybody, pardon the interruption. No. Oh, you can't carry the stream because you can't talk. You're going to Discord him, but I'm on his computer. I'm calling him. Sorry, I'm calling tech support, everybody. Pardon the minor interruption. Once again, Friday, markets closed. Green Friday. We got some Bitcoin miners that were green. Hey. We're having technical difficulty. I can hear George, but nobody else can hear George. Thanks, you. All right. Tech support, everybody.
Okay. George, I think the people can hear you now.
George,
was that easy?
Give us a testing.
It was that easy. Can you guys hear me now? Hello again. Hello.
Like 30 seconds.
Another week has gone by and I'm still miserable.
No, you're not. It was a good Friday. Have George disconnect and reconnect. Let's see if that last thing worked. If it didn't, we'll try.
It did
again.
it? Did it work? Yes, they can hear me.
Boom, he's back.
All right.
Oh, wait, hey, ho, ho.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Just want to be on record as saying I think tech support set me up for that one.
I
So
think
that he can jump in and fix it.
George is talking. Hello, everybody. Smile. I'm trying to be happy. I'm trying to be happy.
All right. I'm catching up. I'm catching up on the chat because I was distracted. All right. This is just all about George. It's all about you, George.
It is. So you want to hear something? So I was supposed to sell a house 2 weeks ago, really a month ago, really 2 months ago. So it didn't sell. And the realtor took and gave this paperwork like saying that they had this money, so I was going to hold a small second on it. They lied. They falsified the documentation for their buyer. Why would they do this?
It's not. You're not the first person to have this happen in real estate.
Bitcoin volatility is now lower than the Nasdaq and S&P for the first time since 2020.
Yeah, Gary? Thank you. That is incredible, and you can tell, and that's I've been obsessing
And by the
about
way,
that.
who called this 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago?
Who did you call this?
Yes, I said there was no volatility. Listen, I have a speech impediment, so I sound really stupid. But well, maybe I am really stupid. I don't know. And I said when you said that Bitcoin wasn't stable.
That's right. When I said it wasn't healthy, you were saying it is healthy. It is very
healthy.
stable. And this whole period, this is on the daily, so I'm all the way back to August here. And we're we had, we had this one little outburst, and that pulled right back. And then today it looked like, so if you go all the way down to the 15-minute time frame, it looked like, oh, here we go. We've been at this green line for months. So this is the orange line where we closed, where the markets closed. This is where Bitcoin was when the markets closed yesterday. So we closed underneath the green line, which was green line's at 19,200 for those of you listening and not able to look at the screen. And we closed a little bit under that at about 19,060. And we were under that all day today. And then we started to accelerate away from that. And then, boom, all the way back up to the green line at the close.
I have a question. Can you do a little poll, a little easy poll time? It's a yes and no poll. Yes or no. Can you do it or no?
Yeah, I got it pulled up. I'm ready to go.
Okay, the poll is, do people believe that the Bitcoin price is manipulated? Yes or no? And with that being said, a little caveat, Tom and I were talking, and what was it, 43,000 Bitcoin changed hands off network? So we don't know what somebody, quote unquote, did for those 43,000 Bitcoin or how much they paid for them, which is interesting. Interesting.
This is a yes, no.
That was not my account, just so you guys know. That was not my wallet. Mine has close to that much, but who's manipulating? That is the question. Well, I'm not saying it's being manipulated.
That's the next poll.
I'm not saying it's being manipulated. I'm asking, do you think it's being manipulated? Oh, Seth says 100%. Everything in the market is manipulated, Benny says.
All right, polls up. I think.
I know what my answer is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, first one to answer it. Nobody else is answering it, Tom. Oh, 8 votes.
Maybe there's some kind of delay.
Oh, I hope this ain't going to be 50-50 again.
I think the
like
network
it always
put George on a 30-second delay.
Is that what's going on?
I think so.
Oh,
Alex
probably.
said, I agree with Seth.
100% manipulated.
Buyers came in when we dropped 500. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Gary. All markets manipulated. Question is more manipulated. Is it more manipulated than other things? So I'm going to weigh in a part of my answer.
Okay, I want to hear a part of your answer.
I think that the smaller something is, the greater the ability to manipulate it. And Bitcoin is only, what, $350 billion? So for the time being, at these low numbers, and these seem like, you know, Bitcoin 20,000 still seems high compared to its history, but it's still a very small asset. So I think the smaller it is, the more people have the ability to influence the price, especially in the very short term. Now,
So,
keeping it like this steady for a month and a half, that's a project. I don't know how to get.
I heard Aladdin knows how to do. I'm sorry. Oops. Sorry, I won't say that. Wrong. Sorry. Wrong stream, guys.
Wrong number.
Stream. The one thing I will say though about manipulation is that if it is being manipulated, do people think it's being held down or propped up? That's the real question.
And Douglas is adding, it's small and important. Right. I mean,
Is it important or impotent? Sorry.
This is, there are people accumulating. If you look at the data, there's big wallets accumulating like crazy. So, you know, we sit here and it goes sideways. I'm always encouraged with sideways like this. I mean, it gets a bit boring and frustrating. And by the way, the Bitcoin miners have not been sideways. I don't know if you guys saw today. I'll bring up that chart if I can. There was some very bad. The Bitcoin miners have been on a bad run, so they're not keeping up with Bitcoin at all.
It's actually JFK Jr. Sorry, Colton. Sorry.
But we had some go green today. So I was doing my video around lunchtime today, and the whole board was just red, and it was a nightmare. So I thought it was going to be just another one of these red Fridays, but we recovered.
So then my question is, if it's being manipulated, is it being held up? And do you think it's going to go lower, or do you think it's being suppressed down? My answer might surprise people, but I kind of think you guys already know. And what is the agenda with it? That's the question. What's the agenda? Because we've all taken this cause now because we've all bought miners and believe that these Bitcoin miners are going to go up. So now we're in the cause of Bitcoin. The world. Did you get that? I got a press pass for the convention in LA.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did. I got 2 press passes. Woo!
All right.
They said they know the show and they like you and they would be more than happy to have you come in as a press. They gave us access to everything, by the way.
For real. Nice.
So yeah.
Well, I got a good email yesterday from Riot Blockchain.
Riot Blockchain?
So yeah, they want to set up an interview on the channel. So
nice. With who? The secretary?
CEO.
Oh, okay.
The secretary, yes. Hey, listen, she'll probably come on too if we ask her.
It's an 80-20. Look at that. 80% say yes, 20% say no. Not the rule of 80-20 again, guys. Please say it ain't so. Please vote. That would be insane if that's how it ends up being. You know that? I hope we will go down much further from here. Hey, somebody had a question in there, Tom, and we missed it. Let me get back to it.
What was
There's a
it?
couple questions. We're going to get to them. Sorry if we missed it.
Everybody, don't forget to like the stream, please. I know it's only takes a second, and we appreciate it. It makes a big difference for the channel.
Mr. Hayes said, hey, Tom and George, I own all of the miners now, but I'm putting my large positions in Marathon, Hut, Riot, Hive, and CleanSpark. Tom, what you think?
I mean, you own every single one, or all of your money is in the Bitcoin miners, and those are the ones that you own?
I think the latter.
Okay.
I don't think no one owns every single one.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's some of these that I don't feel good about right now, and there's others I feel really good about. So that list you just rattled off that's a solid list. I mean, in my opinion, I have one or two on top of that I think are very solid plays, but I wouldn't disagree with any of that list.
I disagree with it.
Go ahead. What's wrong?
Tom, I hope you guys know that Tom and I sit here and talk about this stuff like nonstop. My wife kind of shut up. I don't want to know about Bitcoin anymore. Shut up. I mean, it's sad how obsessed we've become with Bitcoin. It is a store of wealth. There's no doubt in my mind. It's a store of wealth. It's definitely designed that way. It's going to stay there. But I think overall, think about this and think about it from a different point of view. What if you wanted to control something that you didn't start and you got to get into later? You get into it late. And this is the problem is when you have cryptocurrency, the big money didn't start really cryptocurrency. There's a bunch of nerds that started it, and I consider myself kind of a nerd. So, but anyways, I am not 100% on Marathon yet. I'm not sold on Marathon. Out of all those that you put in there, the only one that I would be worried about is Marathon, but it seems to be the favorite of the miners right now. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
It's performing the best. It's holding up the strongest. And there's three that have really kind of broken out, and they're holding up much better than the rest of them. But
so here's what I think.
We saw some signs of life from Marathon last month, and that was encouraging.
That was very encouraging.
And I gotta say something positive because it's not like I don't mention it when they have a tough month. So
Hey, Marathon, did you hear that? We're doing an interview with Riot. Okay, they called us and they like us, Marathon. It's not that we don't like you. We love you. But here's the problem. You've just done some things and you haven't explained it to the investors to make us feel confident. But it doesn't matter because you have the big money on your side. So you're thumbing your nose at us. So don't thumb it anymore. Sorry.
Marathon's welcome to come on the channel. I have never reached out to them. We did talk at the Bitcoin conference. We talked to somebody in their booth, but he's 20 steps away from whoever makes that decision. So, and we really never followed up from there.
Yeah. So what's interesting about Marathon, and I look at where they were supposed to be. Look at where they are.
Gary said CleanSpark wasn't a miner when named. What does that mean, Gary? I want to
when they originally named, when they got their name out in applied for their stock ticker.
I know what he's responding to. He's responding to Colt. I believe I do. Colton said, I picked the miners based on how cool the names are. Hut and CleanSpark. Yeah, CleanSpark was really microgrid, and I think all the microgrid people are now gone, but there was a period of anger in that switch.
I think it was actually going to be clean up. Like, they were going to clean up. They thought they were just... People didn't think that Bitcoin mining companies were going to have to be managed. They just thought it was going to be making all this money. So, Tom, I made 4 days and 1 day off of Marathon. Nice. It's like I said, everybody seems to like Marathon. Out of all the miners, and I'm sorry, this might make a few people mad. They're not a very big miner. I'm going to go with Stronghold because of what they're doing for the environment. I mean, there is somebody who is actually helping the environment, and no one talks about them, and no one celebrates them. And they're barely making it, by the way.
Well, the Stronghold does something nobody else does. And if you guys don't know their story, I did do a video on it, or you can go to their website and just check it out directly. And yeah, they're doing something unbelievably environmentally friendly. However, they ran into some financial woes. But I do believe they've straightened that out for the most part. So they had to scale back as a result of that. So they're not going to be as big as they said they were going to be. It's going to take them longer to get where they're going. But I like Stronghold. I agree, George. I will also tell you, I don't own any Marathon. And that doesn't mean I think it's a bad investment. It's just when things got ugly, I'll say 7 or 8 months ago, but it's was longer ago than that. It's been almost a year since we hit the peak, and it's been pretty much straight down from there. I just started to consolidate into my highest conviction level plays, and, Marathon was not performing for a long time. So, I do like their company. I think that they could end up being the big winner. Right now, Core Scientific is the monster, but in case anybody hasn't noticed, they're giving Core Scientific stock away. Like, it's under $1. It's under $1.
That's interesting. So Alex just said, George, in their Marathon YouTube video, they say that they are different because they are asset light. What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
They don't own any of their infrastructure other than their Bitcoin mining machines. So they're not vertically, integrating, and they don't own, and that's their, that's either going to be great or awful. I don't know.
So you're saying that they don't own their own buildings and they use companies for that?
Right. They don't own their own energy. They don't have their own infrastructure other than obviously the facilities. The Bitcoin mining machines they own. But that's all they spend their money on. They don't build any buildings. They don't build out any other infrastructure like that. So it is a different. Every single one of these companies has a little bit of a different model to try to get where they're going.
I mean, short term, I kind of understand that. Long term, I probably don't understand it. Because if you're going to be operating for X number of years, it seems like it'd be better to have these things built. And hasn't all their problem been because these facilities haven't been built? Hasn't this been all their problems? So as we sit here and we talk about it, it makes me remember what's really going on with these knuckleheads. And I do mean that sincerely as a gesture, not as a mean thing. Nice. I love you guys. But think about it. They gave a projection at the beginning of the year of where the exahash was going to be, right?
Yeah, they're.
And have they made it 1 month? And have they been within 30% of that?
They haven't been within 70%. They're the furthest off of everybody by a mile, and you're right. Their asset light approach makes them rely on partners.
Somebody else.
And their partners ran into one problem or another after the next, and they ran into some of their own problems. So, yeah, I mean, they mined 360 Bitcoin last month, and we were supposed to celebrate that as a great month, but, they thought, according to their own, projections, they should have been mining somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 by now per month.
And I understand they had a flood, and that wasn't planned, and there was other circumstances outside their control. I understand that. I'm not, trust me, but to be that far off, if that was me, and I said to my company, okay, listen, we're going to do $20 million this year, and I come in at 10 million, and my investors, can you imagine? I get shot. You know what I mean? And that's what basically has happened. So I think that looking back at it, it was probably not a good strategy.
Well, let's put it this way. It's a tough start, but if they get where they're going, and now they're having some of they're knee deep, I think, right with Compute North, aren't they? And now they filed Chapter 11, so
hopefully they don't have Compass, and then Compass just opened another facility too.
And they're saying
not saying there's anything wrong with Compass. They just had a problem paying their electric bill.
There's a few problems.
And then if you read the contract, I don't know if anybody looked at mining and like setting up large miners. Tom and I did, and we looked at Compass, and I was hot and heavy on them. They wanted me to stroke a check for $100,000, and they wouldn't guarantee anything. Nothing was guaranteed.
Yeah, now you know why.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for them. They had that in their contract. Darren said, I'm gonna own at least a small portion in every miner. A couple may fail, but a couple will far outplay
I agree with that
loss
statement.
on one or two. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that.
The big one that I'm still on the fence is Core. And I wish I wasn't.
Here's the thing, at 97 cents, somebody did what what I didn't do. Martin, I bought 1K of core at 90 cents today. So I'm like 3 days in a row to getting ready to pull the trigger and open a position in core, and I've chickened out each day. But I mean, how much better is it going to get than 97 cents? If you told me Core Scientific was going to be trading at 97 cents, I couldn't believe it when it got into the $5 range. I mean, it's down 80% from there. But this is what I did in today's video. So many of these stocks, if you haven't seen my video today, you can check that out. I went through all of the companies from their highs in 2021 to where they're trading today. The Marathon is the #1 performing Bitcoin miner, down 87%. And by the way, it's not even close. Most of them are down 96, 97, 98, 99%. I mean, you know what it takes to drive a stock down 99%? You can't find examples of that.
Well, and here's the problem, and I hate to say this. History says if a stock is down 99%, they go out of business.
But that's why I believe this.
I'm just saying,
no,
history says.
I don't disagree with that. By the time a stock is down 95% of the time, they're going out of business. That's not an actual statistic. I'm just saying as an example.
No, but a
it's
statistic
highly probable
is that 99%, I would almost, and I don't know this to be true, but you might want to look it up, 100% of the companies go out of business.
But I will tell you this, we're in it. This is why, in certain ways, this is for certain segments and for this industry in specific. And I did call out, if anybody can show me a list like I put together from another industry, there's a lot of industries that have been beaten down very badly. But I would love to see if there's anything that even compares to this. And I will tell you, there are companies down, but between 95 and 99%, there are several companies in that group of Bitcoin mining companies that are going to make it. So I'm confident that, and in fact, I'm confident more of those will make it than don't make it. So some of them aren't going to make it. Not everybody's going to make it. And you know, if there's an outlying situation and we have just years and years of Bitcoin, you know, 20,000, then I'll be wrong. Then Bitcoin failed, and then I'll be wrong. But if Bitcoin succeeds at all, so to answer at the same time, my Sour Melon Gaming asked a question, are you still sticking to your 30K end of the year price target? And I am. So I think we're going to be at 30K by the end of the year, never mind 5 years from now. So unless something catastrophic happens, most of those companies, several of those companies have very strong balance sheets and are situated to withstand, a reasonable bear market.
I am going to go differently, Tom, and say that I am going to revise my estimate and say no.
Say no what?
It's not going to be at 30,000 at the end of the year.
Oh, you're saying nope, it's not going to get there.
I'm saying it's not. Nope.
I think you're in the majority.
I think if anything, it stays the same. But I have a feeling between now and then is when the pain's really going to come.
Everybody's expecting the next shoe to drop. Look
at what's going to happen in the beginning of November. In the beginning of November, there's going to be an issue where, I don't know, are they going to like the increase in the Fed basis point? I don't know.
Yeah, but that's
already going to separate it? I know that's already in the marketplace, you're saying.
We know the Fed's going to do 3/4 of a point this time. And the next two meetings after that, whether they do a 0.5% or whatever the case may be, the Fed's going to top out somewhere between 5.25% and 5.5%. They can't go any higher than that. They know it. In their own notes, they've already said that. And one of the Fed members came out today and said, look for us to, after the December meeting, we've got to start slowing down raising these rates, or, it's going to be detrimental to the economy. That one of them said that today. So I feel like when the Fed switches gears, forget it. Then they'll, lower rates, print money.
And that's when, that could be when the skyrocket happens.
Whether it's good for the country or bad for the country, or good for the world's economy or bad for the world's, it's going to happen. And
it's gonna. I mean, I see the dollar being taken out. I mean, everybody thought the dollar would be taken out George,
seriously?
midterm will be in effect. Which way would you? I don't know. I mean, this. You know what? That was a big conversation where I actually don't. I shouldn't tell you this. I have a mixed opinion about the midterms. I have a mixed opinion, and I can't do politics on the channel. Tom yells at me all the time.
I need a button.
Yeah.
This is I'm gonna hit the like button, but this is
Yeah.
a
No,
George
I don't.
doing a,
We don't
I shouldn't
really
say this. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
say
I
this.
shouldn't say this. I'm not gonna really say my sentiment is pricing in war, nuclear war. LOL. I think it is. But my
You can't
question
say
is,
nuclear
as
war.
soon,
LOL.
I know that's not an LOL. I think he doesn't really believe nuclear war is going to happen.
Oh.
I am a person that believes that it's going to be a very interesting 10 weeks. That's my opinion.
So Ed's asking, are the miners profitable with Bitcoin at 19,000? So some of them are profitable with Bitcoin at 19,000. Some of them are somewhere break even. And now with the difficulty level change that happened in September and October, I'm going to guess when we get next quarter's financial statements, we're going to find out a bunch of these are not profitable at 19,000. But there is a core group that, even with all the increase in the difficulty level, they're still easily clearing gross profit at Bitcoin 19,000.
Somebody asked Sour Gaming. Speaking of core, do you think it's a buy under $1?
Core is the biggest gamble in this whole group, in my opinion. And the thing is, some of these gambles are going to pay off, and that's what everybody. It always looks like people are like, "Oh, you have clickbait and you use hyperbole." It's like when I say 50x, like that's already happened. So, and that's not over 5 years. You know, Marathon and Riot 50x'd in 6 months last year. So they're down 90-something%. You don't think some of these stocks down 99% are going to 50x? Guess what? Some of them are going to 100x. That's just to get back to where they were. They got 100x to get back to where they were last year.
Real quick, hey, Charmaine asked, mining difficulty is soaring. Is that a less than a zero-sum game? What do you think?
The mining difficulty is soaring, but
Is this game less than zero-sum?
No, and I don't even think it's a zero-sum game because the price of Bitcoin is going to dictate. We're having an unusual scenario. What's happening here is you're seeing that the Bitcoin miners don't believe this price action. They believe that Bitcoin is being held down and suppressed, or they would not be hooking up new machines at this pace because most of this increase in the worldwide hash rate is coming from the North American publicly traded miners. We get to see their operational updates on a monthly basis, and they are now starting to gear up the way they were talking about gearing up all year. I mean, Core Scientific's at 13 exahash right now and climbing, and that's just their self-hosted. So
I have another question, Tom. With the exahashes going up, right? And difficulties going up. And then you have a problem with, like a couple nights ago, that they had a problem solving one of the blockchains. Was that the longest it's ever taken to solve one blockchain? That's my question.
I did not look through the whole blockchain, but I read an article on it that said about one time per month they have an outlying event that's that far out of the norm. I mean, I'm surprised. It took 85 minutes to solve
But what
one
I was
block.
told was that was the longest it's ever taken. That's what I'm hearing.
I will
and that's
look.
why people are like so scared now to see they're saying that it's failing because of that.
That is not affecting the price of Bitcoin. I do not believe, in my opinion. And I'll have an actual answer for you. But even, I mean, you can even go through the list. You can see it's like this one was 14 seconds. Then the next one was 38 minutes. So it's all over the place. And that's why they need the Lightning Network. Transactions, people are not going to rely on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain, to do transactions. Because it is slow. It is slow. It's always going to be slow. And The Lightning Network on top of it, and or any other thing that comes along like that, is where all the transactions are going to be done. So it doesn't matter if it takes a day to solve a block. If you've transacted your transaction on the Lightning Network for your purposes, it's closed. It's done instantly, essentially instantly.
Instantly. For some reason, I want to say this identical. Sorry. Movie quotes, I do it all the time. Okay, I'll buy. What's an exahash? An exahash. You know, that's when you roll up the leftover hash.
That's the extra.
Exahash.
Chris Dominator, I sold all my miners today. Big crash coming next week. I will rebuy in 2 weeks. Good luck, guys.
Hey, brother. I mean, Chris. I mean, I give you the thumbs up. I've been waiting for the crash.
Douglas, I don't own a single share of Core's, but Douglas here said Core's April 23 calls, and I do own some of those.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. So I haven't bought actual shares of Core, but I feel like they're just giving those away. Those are worth the risk reward on those to me. You know, not financial advice, but for me, Douglas, I'm with you. I feel like they're giving those away.
Chris, vote. Do you think the price of Bitcoin is manipulated? Vote.
Gary saying,
hang on 1 second.
We'll see when Q3 numbers are out, but I don't believe anyone will be positive per share. You're saying net income. No, nobody's going to have positive earnings per share, but there will be plenty of Bitcoin miners that still have gross profit. The main thing that I watch is gross profit on a cash basis. So in other words, depreciation doesn't matter. It's a non-cash item. So I'm talking energy, hosting, all the other actual cash costs versus the price of Bitcoin. There are still some companies that as of last quarter, even at 19,000, we're still somewhere in the 50% profit neighborhood. So that's obviously going to deteriorate because the difficulty level continues to go up. So they'll chip away from that. And you're right. I can't see any of these guys actually making net income. So but I mean, you know, at Bitcoin 19,000, 20,000, these are not good days for Bitcoin.
I'm trying to get it back to 80-20. 74, 76.
What do you guys think of
It's
MicroStrategy and ARK? I'll tell you what I think of ARK. I am waiting. I think it's TARK I'm waiting for. Let me make sure I'm saying the right one, because there's one way and one the other way. I'm going to ruin it now, and everybody's going to...
You know, it's funny when people talk about profitability on Bitcoin at 19,000. It's such a... There's so much ambiguity just with that statement. You know what I mean?
Profitability?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I just was, when you were away, I was just saying it's
okay.
So as far as ARK goes, there's a 2x to the downside on that ETF, and there's a 2x to the upside. I am waiting. This was down, let's see, where was its 52-week low? And it just hit it, $10.76. I think when this gets down to $10 or $9 or $8, there could still be more pain from there, but at some point the market is going to turn around, and the ARK Invest Fund is a very, very high risk fund. So they're gonna have the other side of this. Remember, before all this started, they were running away with it when the risk on trade happened. So I would rather play this leveraged play, and it gives me access. I don't think I own one single stock that any of the ARK funds own. So this would be, I don't do many ETFs. When I say I don't do many, I really don't. Well, that's not true. I will mess around with short the Qs and that kind of stuff if I think, you know, I want to hedge something like that. But mostly it's just as a hedge. But to me, I do think this, when this is at $9 or $10, I think this is going to be a great investment. I don't know how long it's going to take to come back.
Hey, Gary, I have to say this to Gary. It says this guy, Solomon, has been calling Bitcoin 3,000 to 11,000 for months. I want to let you know something. I've been calling this for a year and a half. The problem is it's hard to pick the top and it's hard to pick the bottom. But the reason I'm calling it is like probably totally different than any other reason.
I'm going to show you why I'm not calling it. I'm going to go to the.
I know you can. You can be the devil's advocate.
Let's go to the video. Let's go to the chart.
Let's go.
And obviously anything George could be right. Listen, there's been a lot of times I disagreed with George and he was right. So
more than we want to think about it.
Let's get rid
Just
of
had to put that in. Here's the thing, guys. I don't want to be right. I know I will be, but I don't want to be. Does that make sense? Because I just think they're bringing the pain because they know it's going to skyrocket. They know at some point in time it's taking off.
So
there's just no doubt in my mind.
This is the Bitcoin RSI on the 1 month time frame. So that is a huge time frame. This is revisiting. We hit an all-time low in June of 2022, and it was by far the all-time low on the 1 month RSI in the history of Bitcoin. And we're kind of revisiting that spot right now. So to me, you know, this is a double bottom here. It's hard for me to believe we're going to take out this low that already took out the all-time low. And in order to get to 11,000, I mean, you're going to end up seeing a 1 month RSI somewhere that's beyond historically unprecedented. Now, that's not a guarantee because anything can happen, right? This could get all the way to oversold for all we know. But
no, and here's the thing. I don't think it's going to stay down for very long, but I think that, you know, it's definitely going to test some super low numbers.
So here's the 1 week. This was back in 2015, then December of 2018, then obviously the March of 2020, we had the thing happen.
You can't see how low because of where you have this. They can't see how low it was because we're in the way because of the two faces.
Now can you?
No, you can't. No, because you'd have to shrink it and move it.
Oh, how about this?
A little bit more. No, you can't. You just can't see it.
All right. Well,
trust
if you
me,
guys
it's low.
could see any of this, believe me. The 1 week RSI was oversold, and it was the most oversold ever in history in June of 2022. So and there's everything like this keeps pointing to June of 2022 as the low. Now, that doesn't mean it's a fact. There's no doubt. Anything could happen. But just from a statistical standpoint, that looked like the low. And you can see we have not been back there since. Not for a day, not for an hour, not for a minute, and not for a second. We have not been back to that flash crash. And even that day that we got to 17,500 and change, we closed that candle at almost 19,000. So, you know, we were just down there for a second.
Dice forever. I totally agree with you. My question is, do you think a black swan event is coming? That's my question. Tom, do you think there's a black swan event coming?
I mean, the very nature of a black swan event precludes you from being able to predict it.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
It's coming.
I don't think a black swan event is coming. I think we had what turned out to act like a black swan event.
Would you
March
call
of
COVID?
2020.
Yeah, would you call COVID a black swan event?
No, because you're not allowed to say that word on YouTube.
Oh, sorry.
But
would you call that thing that happened that the other people made, that were other people involved in it that made it, and then it affected people and people died, thing that happened?
I think that acted like a black swan event.
Right.
I don't think that it was a black swan event. And I think when history looks back, they'll say that actually wasn't I think our reaction to that was a black swan event. And everything that's happening right now is a function of that. Right? We're still not even close to done paying for our reaction to that situation. So I'm not a non-believer, blah, blah, blah. I got COVID. Trust me, I ended up in the hospital. So I know it's real. But it should not have been a black swan event is my point.
Oh, you're saying,
a lot of things worse than that have happened to our economy and the world, right? We entered world wars, and the stock market didn't react the way it
Like
did
it did.
to.
Well, but that's my thing is that I think there's a lot of outliers, I'll call them, instead of black swan events. Outliers out there that could really affect Bitcoin and the market that are still have not happened.
There's for every outlier you're talking about negative
Yeah.
impetus is coming. Well, that's true, but on the flip side, there's a lot of inevitable things that are coming for Bitcoin that are going to be catalysts. Some of them are going to be huge catalysts.
I will say this. I will say this. I believe we're closer to the bottom than we ever have been. You see what I'm saying? I mean, in 5 years from now, I think we should be in a very healthy position with Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. This is a waiting game, and we don't know how long we're going to be waiting. And I'll tell you, I'm already wrong. I didn't think we'd be waiting this long. I didn't think we'd be in October of 2022, Bitcoin 19,000. So I definitely just flat out got that one wrong. As far as where my head was at in October of 2021, in November of 2021, in December of 2021, obviously a lot has changed since then. So, I've reflected that in my videos over the last 4 or 5 months. But if you look at my projections from a year ago, everybody was wrong. Just like everybody was wrong, except for the, 1 in 100 or less people that were calling,
Thank you, Tom,
for bad things in Bitcoin.
Thank you, Tom.
You're one of those.
Thank you. You go back and look. I've been this way this whole time.
I know.
And here's the other thing. I say we're not done, and I have been calling for a $500 billion market cap on cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin, for how long now? I've been saying it. I called it a 3.5 trillion. I said it's going to less than a trillion. You guys are idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. It is because it is the future, and I guarantee it's the future. Blockchain is here to stay, and blockchain, especially Bitcoin, solves problems that we don't want to talk about in the United States and the world right now, and that's why we're at the price of 19,000. And by the way, that's why I think the price of 19,000 is going to be there for a long time.
So that's the question. Can you bear the pain? This is the ultimate test of a long-term investor in a bear market, because you don't know when it's going to end, and every time it takes a dip down, it feels like the end of the world all over again. So and we're 100 times into that already. So I said on the last stream, congratulations to everybody who's here, because almost everybody's gone right now.
Right.
Certainly, when you're looking at a list of stocks that are down between 95 and 99%, it's safe to say that the retail investors have left the building a long time ago.
Well, and I think the next thing is this, and they know that, you know what I mean? They know that. They know where our pain threshold is. But the problem is, I think that pain threshold is gone. I think they went past it.
I think that I do too. I don't think it's about, because here's the thing. Everybody keeps saying like, oh, we got to feel the pain. It's like, if you look at my video today and look at that list, I'm telling you, I would challenge anybody to find ever in the history of the stock market an industry this is worse than the dot-com companies did after the dot-com bubble burst. So the Bitcoin mining companies are now doing worse by far than the dot-com companies did after the dot-com burst. So this is, in fact, the bear market in the Bitcoin miners. I would challenge anybody in the history of the stock market to find an equal bear market to the one that we're in right now. So, when we all think we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, guess what? The other shoe already dropped a long time ago. These stocks are down 98%, 99%. That's not even a bear market anymore. There is no word for that. Yeah, Alex is saying, look at our 401k for the pain. Exactly. And by the way, the entire market is not doing well, right? I mean, the NASDAQ, I think, hit at one point was down about 35% from its high, you know, that's a big bear market. Yeah, that could get worse. And we've talked about that a lot on this channel. George thinks it's going to get a little worse. And, you know, that's entirely possible. But we're certainly in the middle of the pain.
I think that the election has kept the stock market up. And that the only reason why is because of the election. That's what I believe.
Dice forever. You must have a really strong conviction on Bitcoin if you are still around investing in Bitcoin mining. Yeah, that's for sure. And then Douglas says, and thus the greatest opportunity in history.
Oh,
and,
yeah, I agree
and
with that.
That's you know, everybody has to make their own risk reward analysis. But when you see a company, and it's not every company, I know a lot of you guys are buying them all under the theory that, listen, even if I buy some of the wrong ones, when the right ones hit, they're going to 50 or 80x, so I'm fine anyway. And that's, you know, that is quite possibly true. But if you're going to step beyond that and trying to cherry pick the stocks that are beaten, right? This is one of those things where every one of these companies has been washed away. So is every one of these company the same amount of financially sound? No, some of these companies have extremely strong balance sheets and excellent operations. So on those companies, when they're down 95%, to me, those are windows of opportunity. They're not guarantees. There are no guarantees in the stock market. But if you're going to invest at all, I mean, those are your chances for, you know, life-changing increases if and when you can wait long enough for this to turn around.
Yeah. We're doing a whole bunch of plays where they could, you know, 50x.
Alex
And
is saying
how many
conviction
people
or
are in
naivete.
other cryptocurrencies? Is anybody else in any other cryptocurrencies?
Anybody in Ethereum? Anybody in? I know we've had some Polygon people on the stream in the past.
What will happen in 2 years when the halving happens? I think it's supposed to happen in April of 24, right?
Yep. I mean, the question of what's going to happen to the miners is going to have absolutely everything to do with what has happened with the price of Bitcoin since then, and what happens to the price of Bitcoin in basically the 6 to 12 months after that. So if the past is any history, we know the halving has been a huge catalyst. That's kind of counterintuitive, because you would think that cutting the reward in half would be painful for these Bitcoin miners. But in the past, the amount that Bitcoin has gone up has far exceeded the fact that the reward was cut in half. So, you know, that's what's happened we haven't had many halvings, so it's not like we have, you know, 50 of these to look at and average out. But in the past, that's what's happened every single time. Will it happen next time? We don't know. I'm not even counting on, like, to the moon, but I am counting on Bitcoin getting healthy in the future, in my opinion. Martin saying he owns 0.5 Bitcoin and 3 Ethereum. Seth said XRP. I could have put that one out there for you, Seth. You and George.
I love XRP.
Darren says halving equals to the moon around 9 months later. So that's what's happened in the past. So, I mean, I hope you're right. That would be awesome.
I think XRP is going to $10,000 a coin. Look at all the things that points to it.
Alex is saying no.
10,000.
The other coins are too volatile.
I expect XRP to go to $1. That's all I care about.
So Barry is in Matic. Algorand, Root Protocol, Theta. Oh, you got a whole list. All right, so Barry is our resident. I'm going to defer to Barry because I've only done about maybe 6 or 7 altcoins that I've actually really paid attention to.
I wonder how many people have EFTs, or are they called, is that what they're called? EFTs, or not EFTs, NFTs. Does anybody have any NFTs?
For your sake, everybody, I hope the answer is no.
I'm just asking. It's kind of like nice to know. You know what I mean? I'm glad to see other people are in other stuff too. You know what I mean?
Sphere token S&P 500 of crypto.
Oh, that's where they're supposed to change it at the end of the year. Is that the one they're going to use? I think, is it NASDAQ? Is going on to a crypto for their settlements.
I am not aware of that.
Oh, you're not? Oh, okay. I'm lying.
No, I didn't say that. I said I'm not aware of it. Darren says 10 to 15x today's rate.
What is XRP?
I don't know if he's talking about XRP or...
Yeah, Benny. It's like digital art or something, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Did you hear that Logan Paul went into the WWE? Did you hear this? I could have, if I would have fought him. Can you imagine how much money I'd have? I probably would have kicked his ass too.
He's going to regret that decision.
Yeah, you think so?
I had a long talk with Tom about it. I'm not me, Tom. The other Tom. And it's a very he went and did that with. Have you ever told that story, George?
No. You want to tell it?
I mean, I'm just going to give the Cliff's Notes, not to bore everybody, but John
I don't
Cena
think
was
it's boring.
John Cena was living with our buddy that we grew up with. There's me and George and our friend Tom. There's been the three of us for the last 40 years.
We're called the Three Amigos.
He moved out to L.A. He became a trainer at the Gold's Gym on Venice Beach. And so he met a lot of people through all that. And at the time, John Cena was doing the same thing. It was long before he even started wrestling. So they were roommates for a while. And Tom went with him. And Tom is twice the size of John Cena. And that's being generous, right? I mean, but the thing is, he talked about just how even... Go ahead.
I won't go in. Matt Cena, his brother. He's the one that has the wrestling experience, by the way.
In real life.
In real life, yeah.
Yeah, it's not actual real wrestling, but the thing is, it is unbelievably violent, and I mean, I just remember him calling me like, "I'm not doing this, man. This is the most violent thing ever. This hurts. This is
well,
painful."
It could have also been because of his size and people picked on him. You know what I mean?
Well, there's other big people. I mean, he was probably one of the biggest guys there, but. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's harder at that size to have your body slammed and that kind of stuff. But my point is, it may be fake, but it's not simple and it's not easy. And if he wants to box, like he's risking his whole boxing thing. I don't even know, if that's a real thing or not. So anyway, we digress.
Houses will be sold through NFT in the future. Interesting.
I think that whoever said that was my nephew.
That's Seth. I think what's really interesting about crypto is that it disturbs so much out there. I mean, if you really understand how blockchain works, you could totally change a lot of industries. And I mean, I have an idea in my head that is just like astronomical, but what it does is it takes money away from, I hate to say this, wealthy people, and they don't like that. It takes a lot of, I mean, I have an idea that would save people billions of dollars, and but the problem is practicality is, are the people that have the money going to allow you to do the things to help save money? And the answer is no. Because they don't want you to save the money. They're happy.
Barry saying, I have no NFTs, but would be mildly interested in the Disney ones, as collectors will always love Disney. There are a lot of Disney fanatics, so
yeah, there are.
That would be interesting to see. I'm staying away from NFTs forever. That's my final call on that, but not financial advice. You guys might all get rich on that.
Did you see? Listen, to a lot of analysts are saying that BTC will go down to 9 to 12K. What are your thoughts, Tom? I agree with them.
My thoughts are, the more they say that, the more I'm convinced that it's not going to happen. There is now a consensus that Bitcoin is going to take another leg down. It would be statistically, I showed you a few of the things I look at. just from a statistic, and that means nothing because everything's statistically improbable until it happens, right? All these trends break at some point, and so it certainly could. But the more everybody talks about Bitcoin, 11,000 is the number I keep hearing from everybody. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I may be wrong. Time will tell, but I will tell you, back in June, when we flash crashed to 17.5, if you guys remember, and you can check the tapes because we do this live, I said, that's it. That was the bottom. I called it that day, and I've stuck to that ever since.
Yeah, and that's been the bottom so far.
It's 4 months later now, and we have not gotten close to that, and I think that was the bottom. Sometimes there's just a bottom. You see it. It happens.
Fibonacci, retrace them. Retrace them, Tom.
Retrace the Fibonacci's.
Retrace the Fibonacci. Fibonacci. I'm going to sneak out. It's been a really rough week for me, so.
All right, George, thanks for joining us on the stream.
You're welcome. See you, everybody. I'll be on probably talking, but I won't get in too much trouble, I hope. I'll see you guys.
See you later, George. All right. That was George, everybody. Gary's saying, I'll be happy with a 90K. I'll be happy with a 90K Bitcoin peak in the next bull run. I mean, I'll be happy with that too. I think it's going to be higher than that. I really do, but I would be thrilled with 90K. Right? The miners will be doing great at 90K. Majority usually wrong in Bitcoin. Yeah, so that's my point. When everybody there was just an article today, an analyst came out and downgraded all the Bitcoin miners. And it was like, I was like, thank goodness. Perfect. Because that's pretty much that. You want to mark a bottom when all the analysts downgrade something, that's about the best sign of a bottom as you can get. If we go to 10K or lower, I'm going to sell the kitchen sink. Yeah, I mean, listen, if we go there, I'm a buyer all the way down. So if that's where we go, I will still be buying. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I saved some powder on the sideline to see if we retest our lows one more time. Because I do think that's always possible. You can, once a low is established, you can retest it. But I don't see it. And I don't know, the market overall may not be done bottoming out. And Bitcoin's been bouncing along the bottom. Let's be honest. This is the most sideways action we've seen in Bitcoin. Like, this is not normal. My green line at just under 19,200. Almost every single daily candle has hit this line for the last month and a half. And the only ones that didn't hit this line were above it. So that has held on extremely strong when you look at the daily candles. Love 305 Mia is saying we need a 100K break next bull run. Yeah, I mean, I think it's entirely possible we break 100. Remember, it was only a year ago that 100K was like the absolute lowest prediction you could get from anybody. So now it seems like 100K is off in the distant future and maybe not even possible at all. But sentiment changes, and we will go through that. It's just when. If we wick down to 12 to 16, how many really will be able to buy at that time? Exchanges down surprisingly. I mean, that's going to be the thing. A lot of times, if we do that, a lot of people are going to sell at that time. It sounds great to buy low and sell high, but the pressure to sell when it's low is astronomical. Just the mental and emotional pressure mounts and it gets bigger and bigger the longer time goes on. So that is how people keep, unfortunately buying high and selling low. High in the previous runs, this is Gary is saying, the high in the previous runs is 5.2x the low. So we'll take it. Benny's going to buy a Bitcoin if it goes under 10K. JUQQQ is saying Bitcoin 300K in 2028. And remember, so that might sound crazy, but Kathy Wood is still sticking to her guns. $1 million, what is it, $500,000 or $1 million by 2030, but she really says, I really think it's going to be by 2028, but I'll give it till 2030. And then there's Michael Saylor. You know, those are the ultimate Bitcoin bulls, but Darren says, Bitcoin next bull run will be at the past have two separate peaks about 2 to 5 months apart. Peak 1 about 10x today's price, followed by a drop, and then a run to 15x today's price. So, right, that's been the previous cycle. Even if we don't get 100% of that, I mean, I believe good things are ahead. So we could get all of that. We could get more than that. We could get less than that. You don't know. But, I mean, this 19,000 has held on strong. And this has been, 2022 has been one of the worst years in the market of all time. And when you look at, when you break the market into segments, there are segments that have just been absolutely devastated. Snapchat was down 30% today. So Snapchat, and by the way, I think it was at its all-time low prior to that. So it ended up down 28% today. Yeah, so that's right. So it was at its all-time low prior to this, and now it just went down. It didn't just go down a little. It just took out its all-time low in one day by almost 30%. This is the kind of moves that are happening in this market. Right? This stock's now down over 90%. Join the club. There's a lot of them. Netflix, on the other hand, had a nice run. They had better than expected, but they have already been totally destroyed. So if I go to the, you know, that's a big green candle they're building right now, but, you know, this was a $700 stock. So yeah, they've had a big run up. They got down to, looks like 164. So, you know, they're up significantly from there, but they were a $700 stock this time, less than this time last year. So the market's gotten wrecked. This was a very, very, very difficult year. And, you know, and a lot of people like the dollar cost average. I'm one of those people. And at some point, you know, when things go sideways and down for this long, it's hard to keep dollar cost averaging in. I have slowed way down in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 trading days. I'm waiting to see if we have an actual breakout from this low, because I've bought at this level so many times. I just don't see any value of buying in. The one thing I was looking at, and there's more than one thing, but Core Scientific, I own a few options on, but I'm basically not in that position. So I was thinking about buying some of their stock under $1, under the premise that, I mean, the risk reward on that is strong. Understanding it could go to 0. They could fail. Because they are not. I did a top 5. I did 2 top 5s. People were very that was a very touchy subject, I think, but I did my top 5 most likely to survive an extended bear market, and then I did my top 5 most likely to go up 500% first. So those are two opposite. That's your risk on companies and your risk off companies. So, you know, there was no crossover on that list. I will say Cleanspark and Bitfarms were number 1 and 2 on my 5X list, and they were number 6 and 7 on my list of most likely to survive. So they did not make the top 5, but they were very close. So, you know, because they score well in both of those, and I have other lists that I'll be doing as well, I like those investments. I think, you know, you got to balance them all. You can't be risk on and risk off. So you got to take whatever their philosophy is and hope they're balancing it properly. I know a lot of people have a bone to pick with management at Bitfarms, so I get it. Darren saying, just remember, always 2 separate peaks with the second peak being the highest. Yeah, so, you know, if you're a swing trader, that's where you can you can double. The reason why CleanSpark stock is so low, this is AMD, is because they sell almost all of their mined Bitcoin. Mara holds most of theirs. Do you agree, Tom? I will tell you this. The 3 companies that have performed the best over the last 4 months are Marathon, Hut 8, and Riot. And I think it is absolutely no coincidence that those are the 3 companies that have the biggest pile of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And it's not even close. Those 3 have, I think Hive is in 4th place with just about half as many as the 3rd place company, which is Riot. And Hut continues to hodl every single Bitcoin they've mined for years now. So Colton's asking my thoughts on Mullen. I'm reserving judgment on Mullen. I thought I would catch a dip and have a run up, but so far I've been wrong on that. And let me go to my so these are most of my electric vehicle or electric vehicle related. You can see Romeo now ceases to exist. So if you want to know one that I was definitely wrong on, Romeo did not go the way that I hoped it would go for sure. So they were bought out by Nikola, so they're gone. And where's Mullen on this list? I don't know. It's possible they're not on here. Well, anyway, you can see Tesla had a turnaround day today, so they tanked. The other day, Neo, Xpeng, and Lee they were down 12% on an otherwise good day. So those tanked. It looks like they're coming back a little, but they're all still very near their 52-week lows. Those stocks have been absolutely destroyed, especially XPEV. That people have abandoned ship on that one. Gary's asking, usually one peak with blow-off top. People were expecting that, so a lot of people thought over 100K in 2021. May have been inflation or leverage caused second peak was lower than predicted. Yeah, that's exactly where, if everybody goes back in time to what Gary's talking about, last August, September, October, absolutely everybody and our good friend or not, Plan B, was dominating the conversation at that time, and he was calling for Bitcoin 140,000 by December. So that was driving the narrative in a big way. And, you know, he called a couple of months, I'm not going to say spot on, but he was pretty darn close a couple months in a row. And it almost started to, people felt like it was almost a prophecy that this is what's going to happen. And that is not what happened. So the opposite happened. Unfortunately, I think the people with money realized that every single retail investor was now, and I won't say everyone, that's not fair, but the majority of retail investors were following along that same line of reasoning, using leverage. And leverage has got this 25x, 50x, 100x leverage. That's got to go away. It's just so unhealthy for any market. It's foolishness to get involved in that. So, in my opinion, right, you can lose all your money in minutes if you're going to 100x leverage. So, and of course, you know, the person's theory is, well, I could, you know, on the flip side, I could 100x in minutes. Yeah, that's true, but you know, big money usually ends up winning that game because they have deeper pockets, so they just keep digging until you're out. Let's see. Tom, how do you evaluate the risk-reward investing in your favorite miners relative to straight investing in Bitcoin? Do you invest in Bitcoin at all or just the miners? I am not invested in, believe it or not, I hold 0 Bitcoin. I believe that, and I've gone through in a bunch of my videos recently, I've created a new chart to show. I believe very strongly that all of the Bitcoin mining companies act as a leveraged play on Bitcoin. And they're between a 2x and 3x leverage on Bitcoin. And if you look at the last 120 days, you'll see that's exactly how they've acted. But unfortunately, Bitcoin's down 25% measured from the August highs, Bitcoin is down, I think, 24%. So all the Bitcoin miners are down somewhere between 45% and 75%. So there's your 2x to 3x leverage play. We've just been living the wrong side of this, and it's very painful. But I just lived the wrong side of this leveraged equation for the last year, so I can't switch now to deleverage myself, right? And again, I'm leveraging in a way that is 2 or 3x. So if you want to leverage, that's a safer way. Margin is a little scary, but you can use your margin. That's not big leveraging. If you want to use the Bitcoin miners, it's a way to leverage without actually risking more of your money. It's just going to have more volatility. So I am sticking with the Bitcoin miners. I took the run down. I took the run up with them. I took the run down with them. And so I'm going to wait. I believe I'll be taking the run up with them. That's my personal belief. And that's why I have a diversified portfolio of Bitcoin miners, because any one thing could happen to any one company and all of a sudden you're done. So, from that standpoint, Bitcoin is a safer investment, I would think. Look at Bitcoin divided by the M1 money supply chart. I mean, there's no doubt, but I do think I think we're going to be printing money sooner than later. I know that's hard to imagine from what's going on right now, but I think it's inevitable. And the the chair of the San Francisco Fed basically pretty much said so today. Teddy's saying Bitcoin ain't touching 100K unless we have regulation put in place. We still need capital injection from financial institutions. So that's absolutely true. Those are two huge, to me, those are catalysts that sit out there. So they're bad news for us in the meantime. It's one of the main reasons that they've been able to hold Bitcoin down to this level. The fear, uncertainty, and doubt that they put out around regulations, and I'm going to say it around ESG as well. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and those have been tools to hold Bitcoin down. But when we do get regulations in place, and I don't think that's an overnight thing. It's not going to be like one sweeping regulation. I think we're going to get them in phases. I think the first two things that are going to get regulated, in my opinion, in the United States are the exchanges, because that's really the gatekeeper. That's where the transactions occur. So I think there's going to be regulation on the exchanges, and I think there's going to be strong regulation on the stable coins. I think that's the first two things you're going to see. They're going to duke it out. The SEC wants their hands on all the rest of all of this cryptocurrency. They're not even shooting for Bitcoin anymore, but they do want, other than Bitcoin, the SEC wants to be in charge of all of it. And the SEC continues to deny an ETF, and that they're getting near the end of that fight, in my opinion, as well. And I don't know what near means. That could mean 6 months, it could mean a year, but a lot of people have stepped in, including there's an organization that Goldman Sachs is on the board of that has stepped in on behalf of Grayscale, and they're just saying this is not reasonable. The SEC is not being reasonable. There's no reasonable or rational explanation on why you could have an ETF on a derivative of something, but not have an ETF on the asset itself. And that on its face value alone is end of story, in my opinion. So that's just common sense. But they do have the ability, for the time being, they do have the ability to hold that down and suppress that. So that's one of the catalysts that's out there somewhere. I just don't know when. And that's why I think there's a very long list of those types of catalysts. And you're right. Until some of those start happening, we're stuck in the mud, which is what you can see with Bitcoin. It's bouncing along this $19,000 line for a long time now. And until we see some of these things change or move forward, and we will. I think we will next year. This is an election year, so, they tend not to do anything. They're not going to do anything between now and the time the new Congress goes and sits in the United States. So, we're probably looking at sometime first or second quarter next year. You're going to start getting those regulations in. And even though, nobody's a big fan of regulations, I think they will be a good thing for the price action on Bitcoin in particular. Darren is saying, Congress quietly started a bill allowing 401k plans to invest and hold Bitcoin very much quietly. Yes, that is true. That was very under the radar. No flashy headlines on that at all. So that's a big step in the right direction. Remember, most of the money that is invested is not even considering Bitcoin at this point. So, I don't know if it's 90% of the money or 95% of the money, but the vast majority of all the money is still sitting on the sidelines. So, if or when that comes in, if Bitcoin becomes a more established asset and cryptocurrency becomes more of an established asset class, and that part might take longer. I think Bitcoin has a giant head start. So I don't know. I think the entire crypto universe, I do think the SEC is bent on controlling that. I don't know if they're going to win that battle or not, but that's what they want. I want to say thanks to everybody in the meantime for joining our Friday live stream, and thank you to the members for being members and for joining the live stream. And the live stream on Tuesdays, we have a members only live stream, so you're welcome to join us on that as well. Anybody else have any other thoughts or questions? I think we've been on for a while, so unless anybody has any other questions, I'm just going to review parting thoughts. My parting thought is, here we are, right back at 19,200. 19,154. So until I see a 24-hour period or more importantly, a 48-hour period go by where we don't cross over that line, then I think we're just simply sideways right now. And the Bitcoin miners have been punished massively. So my last video, I did three different charts of the Bitcoin miners. I didn't really talk too much about Bitcoin. I focused on the miners and really gave the numbers. And I think if you see the numbers, they're just absolutely shocking. So that one's worth a look if you haven't seen it. Darren's saying buy physical silver. Yeah, silver and gold. I know I've been hearing a lot of people call for silver. Silver and gold have performed much worse than I expected in the year 2022, and they started out the year doing well. They were the only two things, 3 months into this year, they were in first place by a mile, and that's not as much the case anymore. All right, so I have a question. Down 95% miners versus down 90% miners, which one is better? So the only thing that I would answer to that is you still have to decide. You got to look at the underlying company and do your due diligence. But I will tell you, a company down 95%, that means when they were down 90%, they're down 50% from there. So they had another 50% drop in their stock after they were already down 90%. And then a company down 97.5% had even another 50% drop after that. So if you look at the if you find a company that you think isn't going out of business and it's down 95%, to me, that's something that has got to be on your watch list and you've got to give serious consideration to, in my opinion. But then obviously you also want to pick best of breed, because the companies that are best suited to survive and thrive, even if they're not, even if they're down only 90% or 89%, you want to be in the best companies as well. And Ed is saying, will you make profit at 19K list? So I think he's saying which Bitcoin miners will be profitable at 19K is one of the things to look at. Darren S. is saying a 2,000-ton shortfall on silver next year. Just saying, all right, so inside scoop from Darren, silver. I keep looking at silver, but I actually wasn't going to buy physical silver. You're saying actually buy the silver, I think is what you're saying. Do you think that, I mean, if I look at, oh, silver did pretty good today. Silver and gold. Well, silver in particular, $19.40. But this was up. I mean, if you look at silver's chart, this was a rough. I want to do year to date. Because, you know, it started out in February and March. This was up $26, $27. So it got all the way down to 17 and change. And, you know, we're still only at 19. So we're still near the lower end. So if you think that silver's going up, you certainly haven't missed the run yet at all. And Darren is saying, yeah, in his opinion, buy actual physical silver. Oh, you can sell it tax-free. So, yeah. We'll watch. We'll keep our eye on silver and gold. But silver in particular, I know a lot of people are waiting for this silver run. And like Darren said, you know, there's a short. The difference between silver and gold is there's a lot more actual practical applications for silver. So it really is something that is used. I know the gold is used in very minute ways, but silver much more so. Tom, do you ever think, this is Sour Melon Gaming, do you ever think when Bitcoin began its run in 2020, it may have just been because of all the money funneled into the economy because of COVID? Because in 2020, every stock was a winner. You know, in 2020, every stock was a winner. But here's what I will tell you. If you look at the small cap high growth stocks, so those are the super high, those are the risk on, that's a risk on trade. That trade started dying in February of 2021 and was absolutely dead by, I'm going to say, May of 2021. Bitcoin, on the other hand, peaked in November of 2021. So I feel like Bitcoin did separate itself from that group. So, yeah, I think a part of the run-up definitely was, I mean, obviously, infusion of money is going to run the price of things up. So there's no doubt that's a piece of the puzzle. But I don't think that that was the reason why Bitcoin ran up. It may have enhanced the run-up that we were going to get, but I don't think it was the reason. Because I think that, you know, it's been following a pattern. And again, this cycle around was the least it has followed its you know, 4-year cycle pattern by far. So we'll have to see what lies ahead. So, oh, Ed's saying do you want me to make a profitable at 19K list? I can do that. So I got a couple more top 5 lists, so that's a good one. So I'll do one of those. And I will do some videos over the weekend for sure. So unless anybody has anything else, Darren says buy silver. And we're still hanging out. 19,153. So, all right. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for all of your chat and your comments. And thanks for all of your likes on the channel. It does make, right now, it's a real struggle for financial channels because a lot of retail investors are sitting on the sidelines and they're too depressed to watch anything. So I appreciate you guys watching the videos and leaving comments and liking them. It does make a big difference. So I try to answer all the comments. I did steer clear of comments on one video because people seemed very, very passionate about that, and I'm not here to try to argue with anybody. Some of these top 5 lists are, you know, going to make. Not every company can make every top 5 list, and I know some people get, you know, emotional or upset about it if it's not on a list. But you don't know. It might have been 6 or 7 for me, and that's just my list. You know, everybody's got their own list. So, and I have so many of these different lists. So there's a lot of different ways to look at the miners. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in and sticking with me. And so I'll see you in some videos over the weekend. And we'll do a members live stream next Tuesday. And obviously, as always on Friday, we'll do a live stream. So thanks a lot. Have a good weekend. Go Bitcoin. Maybe we can make a run this weekend.